Well, it's a little frustrating to work some problems sometimes, especially as you could see that last problem. There was definitely a mistake in the book on this one, and it's really relevant to this particular problem. So if we solve y prime plus y equals f of t with initial condition y of 0 is 5, where f of t is this piecewise defined function, it's either 0 if t is between 0 and pi, and 3 times the sine of t if t is greater than or equal to pi. So the solution for this equation would be to find the Laplace transform of the equation first. So that would be, for this term, s times y of s minus y prime of 0, which is, minus y of 0, which is 5. And then plus the Laplace transform of this, that's y of s, equals 3 times the Laplace transform of sine of t times u of t minus pi. That would be exactly the function we desire, because u of t minus pi is 0 up until the point where we reach pi, and then it becomes 3 times sine of t times 1. So, simplifying on both sides, take this term and this term, factor out the y of s, it's y of s times s plus 1. This side we got 3 times the Laplace transform of sine of t times u of t minus pi. Well, that, you've seen how that each of the negative pi s factors out, and this is the Laplace transform of sine of t, and this is the 3. And then I added this 5 to both sides, right, this 5 right here. And so then, to solve for y of s, one more step, divide both sides by s plus 1, so we got 5 over s plus 1, and then 3 over s plus 1 times s squared plus 1 times e to the negative pi s. So, to work out partial fractions on this part requires a over s plus 1 and bs plus c over s squared plus 1, this being an irreducible quadratic factor. So, multiplying both sides by the common denominator is probably the easiest way there is to do this one. 3 therefore equals a times s squared plus 1 plus s plus 1 times b times s plus c. Well, that means as squared plus bs squared equals 0, because there's no s squared term on the other side. b plus c equals 0, because there's no s term, and that's how we get an s term, this bs and this cs. And they add together to make 0, because there's no s term either. And finally, a plus c is the only constant, and that has to be equal to 3. So I use this row reduced echelon form for this matrix. This is a plus b plus 0c equals 0, 0 plus c, b plus c equals 0. That's this equation. And then finally a plus 0b plus 1c equals 3. And I did the row reduced echelon form, but you can do that by hand, or you can do that with your calculator. And I got a and c both at 3/2 and b at -3/2. So now we have this right hand side, 5 over s plus 1, and then plus 3/2. I factored out the 3/2 from all these. 1 over s plus 1 times e to the negative pi s, 1 over s squared plus 1. That was actually from my c, e to the negative pi s, and here was the b at -3/2, which is factored out, s over s squared plus 1 e to the negative pi s. So y of t is the inverse transform of all that, and so therefore, of course, this is easy, 5 times e to the negative t. This 3/2 times e to the negative t minus pi times u of t minus pi, and then plus 3/2 times, for this one, sine of t minus pi times u of t minus pi, and then minus 3/2 cosine of t minus pi times u of t minus pi. Or more simply, I can factor the u of t minus pi out of all this part. So here we go. There's this one. 3/2 this one, -3/2 this one. And finally, what function would that be? Well, y of t is 5 e to the negative t if t is between 0 and pi, because if t is bigger than pi, this would be 1. If it's less than pi, this is 0, so all this part gets zeroed out. So otherwise, it's 5 e to the t plus 3/2 e to the negative t minus pi plus 3/2 sine of t. Whoa. Timeout. This is about the 5th or 6th time I've started this video, so will be rewarded when I'm done. Anyway, 5 e to the t, 3/2 e to the t minus negative t minus pi, and I think you see where that comes from here. But now when I get to this part, sine of t minus pi is negative sine of t, so it's minus 3/2 sine of t. And since cosine of t minus pi happens to be negative cosine of t, and you can work that out on your own if you want, but think of cosine, cosine, secant sine, sine, so that would be cosine t, cosine pi, plus sine t, sine pi, but sine pi is 0, so therefore it just winds up being negative cosine t, so this sign right here and this sign right here are switched. But that's what our function would be if t was greater than or equal to pi. And I'm glad I'm not making this video anymore. Time to relax.